You probably have a level of exhaustion.
Let's do something about it.
I'm Ben.
I'm Max.
And this is D&D Ideas. Sometimes we talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
Sometimes we talk about Dungeons and Dragons in life.
Either way, it's always about ideas.
If you're in the mood for something a little different than the D&D videos you're used to, we got you.
Today's D&D Ideas is on the intersection between D&D and life.
As we've said, Dungeons and Dragons isn't just a game we love. It's also a tool that Ben and I use to make sense of our lives.
It's way more fun for us to talk about our thoughts in terms of spells and magic, life in terms of adventure, and chance as that ever-present 20-sided dice rattling just off the camera.
It's like Thomas More says, slight shifts in imagination can have more impact on living than major efforts at change.
Slight shifts in imagination, like framing the things we go through in terms of the game we love. It's helped us, and maybe it'll help you too.
There's a lot of things they don't tell you about being a lich. Minions and miniatures are hard to keep track of. They take up a lot of space and money. The copays are ridiculous, and they're far more fragile than you expect. Weak ankles. But thank the dark powers, I found tactical tokens. Do I love them? Lich, please. They're stackable, right-onable, and much easier to keep track of on a battlefield. Tactical tokens, the best-kept secret of necromancers and game masters everywhere. Lichin ain't easy, but choosing tactical tokens is. Until next time!
In part 1, we talked about the 6 levels of exhaustion in 5th edition and mapped those onto real life.
There'll be no retconning here, so if you missed part 1, start there.
Today, we're talking about and showing you things you can do to help remove your levels of exhaustion.
Before getting too far into it, an important caveat. The 6 levels of exhaustion are a fantastic tool to help you make sense of exhaustion in real life.
And also, they aren't perfect. In Dungeons and Dragons, every character responds to the rules as written.
Would that real life would be so neat and tidy, that each of us would respond the same way to the same things.
Says the lawful good paladin.
If only.
The idea of levels of exhaustion is a useful one, with a catch.
We're all different. How we process, experience, and respond to life is gonna be different.
While it's convenient to think of level 1 exhaustion as burnout and level 2 as overwhelm, it's entirely possible for you it's reversed.
Overwhelm could be your first level and burnout your second. Which comes first doesn't matter, but the idea that there's a progression to these things with stacking effects does, at least for this conversation.
Ben and I, not doctors. We don't play them on TV, the internet, or in Dungeons and Dragons.
If you're dealing with exhaustions levels 4 to 6, you know, the really sick, bedridden, and death is on the line type of level, there's nothing wrong with using the help action to talk to a professional.
Everything we cover today is geared around things to help you get rid of levels 1 to 3 of exhaustion.
As we've said, level 1 exhaustion is burnout.
About 80% of us will feel burnout. About half of us feel it sometimes, and almost a third of us live there constantly.
As it's something that's likely going to happen to most of us, let's get clear on the symptoms.
Negative thoughts and feelings, being mentally distant, a general sense of cynicism, and being kinda meh and not at your best.
If you heard that list and you're like, yeah, that's me, then you, my friend, may have a level of exhaustion.
There's a link to a survey in the description. It's short, and you can confirm your insight check there. But if you're exhausted, you had disadvantage on that check.
Now that we've talked symptoms, let's talk causes.
There are 6 widely recognized triggers to burnout. Some are obvious, some not so much.
Work overload is probably the most obvious. It's the feeling that your work is too hard, too urgent, too complex, and there's too much of it.
Lack of control is another big one. It's the feeling of not having a lot of say in your day-to-day and of being micromanaged.
Feeling that you've been taken for granted, underappreciated, or underpaid is another.
Spending time with people you don't like and not having a sense of community is another.
Feeling like you are or very easily could be on the receiving end of unfair treatment, or like there's no accountability or justice to be had.
Finally, being in contact with people whose values are radically different than your own, and that you're selling out.
Stopping right there and looking at that list. It doesn't take a high intelligence score to see why burnout is such a big problem.
Underappreciated, undercompensated, treated unfairly, with too much to do and not enough time and no say in a toxic culture whose values aren't yours.
This is why we say you probably already have a level of exhaustion. It's like modern life is just a crash course in being functionally exhausted all the time.
And once you're burned out, making all of your ability and skill checks a disadvantage, it's pretty damn easy to pick up a second level of exhaustion and to become overwhelmed.
The seeds of overwhelm are right there, plain as day, in the first burnout trigger: workload.
Feeling like you have too much to do and not enough time or support to do it is a short hop away from feeling like you don't know where to start or what to do first.
And if you don't know what to do or where to start, it's really easy to not do anything, to just sit there and think about how screwed you are.
Not doing anything because you don't know what to do is the real life equivalent to having your movement speed reduced by half.
And then you're stressed on top of it. You stay up late and you get up early to try and get everything done.
So you start feeling a little achy, and because you feel like crap, you get short with your coworkers, your spouse, your kids, with that stranger who looked at you wrong.
It's level 3 exhaustion, baby. You've got disadvantage on your saving throws. The littlest things are going to set you off. You explode in rage, in words, or in tears.
This is the first 3 levels of real life exhaustion stacking.
Now remember how we said that mapping D&D exhaustion onto real life isn't perfect? Well, here's another reason.
Greater restoration doesn't exist. There isn't a single action you can take to poof and magic away a level of exhaustion.
But just because there isn't a single supernatural action you can take to remove a level of exhaustion, there are things that you can do.
In the interest of keeping us out of the neuroscience weeds, removing levels of exhaustion means doing things to activate your parasympathetic or rest and digest nervous system.
Just like in Dungeons and Dragons, a good night's sleep is the best way to truly rid yourself of an exhaustion level.
If short rests, long rests, and sleep hygiene are something you'd like us to talk about, leave a comment. We can do that in the future.
But if you're at level 3 exhaustion, you're burned out, you're overwhelmed, you're on edge, and you feel like you're getting sick, the best thing you can do at that point, notice it.
And once you do, choose to say the most powerful magic word in the world: no.
You can either say no now on your terms, or keep doing what you've been doing, pick up another level of exhaustion, get sick, and be forced to say no later on.
At which point, instead of disappointing one party you're a part of ahead of time by telling them no, you'll let down every single party you're a part of suddenly when you're sick.
Now, Max and I are both people pleasers. We know how hard it can be to cast power word no.
Especially when there's power differentials at play, like with your boss or your partner or spouse. It can often feel like you don't have a choice, that you can't say no.
But rare are the times when you absolutely cannot cast power word no. Many are the times it will disappoint someone you care about and have consequences.
One thing that helps is reframing. Every time you say no to something, you're really saying yes to something else. Watch. Ben, you want to grab a drink tonight?
Power word no! No, but thank you. I'm gonna spend tonight at home with my family and working on editing this video.
I'm glad you used the word spend, because here's another truth. Anytime you say yes to something, what you're really saying is, yes, I agree to do this thing and pay for it with my life.
Whatever you're asked to do will take your time and your energy, and time and energy is basically all our lives are.
While the effect is the same, Ben wasn't so much saying no to me, he was saying yes to his family and to Peak D&D.
Now, it's a subtle shift, but it's effective, both internally for me and externally for Max, when I say no.
The clearer you are on the yeses in your life, the easier it is to say no to things that take you away from you.
And the easier it is to hear. Max might be true neutral, but he's not a monster.
You'd rather spend your time and energy on your wife and kid and on our joint creative projects than getting drunk with me?
So, cast power word no.
If you're stuck in the second level of exhaustion, here's a couple things you can do.
Overwhelm and the paralysis that ensues is a powerless state.
Inaction and indecision are two ways we give our agency and personal power away.
It's like saying, this situation I'm in is greater than me and it's hopeless, so why bother at all?
The antidote: do something. Not anything, something.
Use your action this round to get clear on your objective, whatever it is.
Your objective is Z. Knowing Z is important. Once you know it, it's time to figure out A.
Your A is where you're at. A is an honest assessment of your situation as it is in this moment.
Once you know where you are and where you want to go, do the absolute easiest thing you can think of that moves you toward Z.
Then do the next easiest, and the next easiest after that.
By the time the next easiest thing is something that's hard, you'll have built up the confidence from all the steps you've taken so far that it won't seem so bad.
Which brings us back down to exhaustion level 1, burnout.
Fortunately, there's a lot you can do about burnout. Unfortunately, you might not like it.
They all have to do with active recovery.
Spend quality time cuddling with a loved one or a pet, but put down your phone. Scrolling and snuggling ain't gonna cut it.
Get outside for a walk, fresh air, light exercise. If you're lucky enough to live in a place where you're able to see the horizon, all these things have been proven to remove stress.
I know it's not for everyone, but cold therapy, an ice bath, or a cold shower.
Use a foam roller, get a massage, take a hot bath.
Oh yeah, no, heat totally works, man. Hit that sauna, hit that steam room if you have access.
Yoga or any kind of stretching, YouTube yoga is great. Adrian and April are our homegirls.
Meditation or breath work, focusing on breathing from your diaphragm. Box breathing is super easy. Here, I can show you how to do it right now. Ready? Okay, inhale for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4. Do that like 10 times.
Lastly, play some Dungeons and Dragons. For real. Playing, spending time with people you like, and being part of a community are all good ways to recover levels of exhaustion.
And then sleep. Like it or not, Dungeons and Dragons is spot on this one. Nothing removes levels of exhaustion like good sleep.
Now, we've dug pretty deep into the first 3 levels of exhaustion and offered up some greater restoration tips for your real life. So what do you say we call this one here?
I know it's been a lot, but we promise it will be worth it. We have a special treat in store for you in part 3.
And we got you back. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us today at Peak D&D.
We really do appreciate it.
Just like we'd appreciate a comment or a thumbs up if you liked this video and it added a little value to your life.
There a D&D idea that you'd like us to talk about? Cast sending.
Our email address is down there in the description.
If this kind of thing is your jam, subscribe. Tell a friend.
Share this video with your friends. To everyone who does and has, thank you. You are how we level up.
Dispel the glyph of warding around the notification bell so you don't miss your turn.
Peak D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, Saturdays, and one other day each week.
Until then, keep on climbing until you reach your peak.
Energy.
I'm gonna make a video today.
No! There's R. There's
okay, I had to
R.
itch my nose this whole time. Thank you.
My God.
Nazi. This is gonna be great for the outtakes.
Bam! I felt like I should say, like, we're here for you. We're here for you. We support you. We will.
I like it, man.
You can do this.
I like it.